Dog Motorsports is the latest, most creative, and important invention for working dog breeds in many years, with the opportunity for all dogs, regardless of breed, size, or age, to get involved with. Dog Motorsports are electric-powered bikes and rigs that dogs can be exercised with in a variety of ways, depending on your goals, the area you're at, and time. Virtually no training is required, and high-energy breeds can be exercised properly, quickly, and efficiently without spending hours on end trying to satisfy them, or as I like to say, tucker them out. I'm Bill WooFDriver Hellman, also known as the Dog Adventurer, and have pioneered the whole concept of dog motorsports and have proven it with multiple generations of Huskies, constantly refining it and perfecting it for almost 30 years now. This is something you have to actually see to believe. As a WooFDriver, I travel the East Coast of the USA with my Huskies, doing dog motorsports on trails, roads, beaches, and even in the cities. Check out the latest dog motorsports video coming up right now. Hey everybody, WooFDriver here in WooFDriver's workshop, and you're actually getting a glimpse today of behind the scenes a little bit. We've got some of my team working on the bikes and working on getting other bikes ready for, working on developing whole new pulling systems for the dogs, as well as working on getting some of the rides, some of the bikes, the hybrids, everything I use, ready for the upcoming spring, summer heat, if you will. So this is probably one of the most advanced vehicles I own, probably more advanced than any car I owned. This is actually called the Swincar. So the Swincar was developed in France, and it's fully electric, and it's kind of got a pendulum system for suspension. It almost swings, Swincar, kind of incorporate that in the name. So what that means, it can transverse different levels of ground, almost similar to an ATV, but actually even more suspension, if you will. The way it can climb and the way it can navigate through uneven terrain and over basically anything. So it's not going to go, or you don't want to go too fast over anything, but you can literally climb, almost like, we'll show you some videos. I'll refer you to some videos through the comments section of this video. You can almost climb rocks and almost like stair-stepping them. Pretty interesting machine, and it was not built for dogs, but of course my team and myself and everybody I work with, we can turn almost any vehicle in for dogs. And this would especially interest people running dogs in any capacity, but like hunting dogs, they do something called roading, and I've referred to that before because a lot of what I do takes off the concept of roading, whereas you're running dogs on horses, on electric powered vehicles, etc. I've kind of merged roading and urban mushing together. So the dogs can go on the side on this vehicle. We might make an adapter so they can go in front, like I've been showing and I've been developing over the past year or so for some of my other vehicles. But let's get into the Swincar here. So again, imported from France, and I was one of the first people in the United States to have the tandem model, which this is. So tandem model means two people, and we're missing a seat here. I have two of these Swincars, but the normal seat that would be here for the second passenger makes it really convenient when I'm running the dogs, because that person, because I'm running them again on the side, can keep an eye on the back dogs and also help me peruse my vision around the area, because we go to some very remote areas in this vehicle. That's what it's built for. So instead of the seat here, I've actually added a huge cooler, as you see, and that cooler is plumbed into these fans, which will actually mist and spray and of course fan the dogs as they run. So really cool concept. As far as I know, I'm the only one in the world ever to do something like this on any vehicle. And I started out doing misting systems on dogs going back almost 30 years ago now. And recently, again, with the invention and the progression of technology for batteries and motors and equipment, Ego has developed a fan which incorporates this misting system, and other brands make it, but the Ego fan adapts really well to this Swincar. And again, this is all customized. You can't order a Swincar like this with the fans, without a second seat. Now you can order a single single Swincar model. But again, because where I adventure, it's nice to have someone with me in the cooler months. And when I don't have someone with me, when I have a team following behind me or in front of me, I can add the cooler and add the misting fans. Again, these are all Ego powered, so they use the battery that I've adapted to some of the electric bikes, and they go right in here. And with a big battery, I think you can run this fan even with the misting system on for something like I don't know, I might have got a full day in rotation, 24 hours, because I didn't charge one of my big batteries. The biggest they make it right now is a 12 amp hour, which means which is how many cells are in there, and they rate them by amp hours. So that means that this thing I had on like 6 trips, and each trip was like 4 hours. So that's how I'm saying almost 24 hours if my math is right there. So that's a long time. Now we can recharge these. We carry extra batteries with us, so it's not a big deal swapping them out. But I'm just telling you in case you wanted to get one of these fans for another purpose. I'm not paid or endorsed by any of these companies. This is all personal experience and the truth about the review here. But the misting fan was adapted for this bike in particular, the way we strapped it down. You can see this rotates like that. So if I feel like the dogs are running more in line, or if we stop and I want to get a wider mist, propel the mist with the fan, then I might turn it out that way. Pretty interesting stuff. Again, they'll run for almost ever. I've never used, on a 4-hour trip, I think, I've never used a full cooler of water, but that's easy. We can refill these on the run, if you will. So Chris is actually working on this now. We're getting this ready again for this season. We haven't used it this season. Last season was the first season we ran it with the misting fan. But again, the Swincar, the way it pivots and the suspension, the whole design of it is pretty miraculous, a real leap in technology. And we adapted it to the dogs using the Springer system, which I use on almost all of my bikes. I've been using for many, many years. And we hung these, if you will. I'm using swivel clips, and I'm using the carabiners I talk about many times, these magnetic carabiners. And we went from the bottom, we reversed the Springer, so it's upside down, because the way this thing pivots, and again, the extensive suspension, it gives the dogs more time. It kind of telegraphs to them what we're running into. If we're running into a rock and we're going to tilt a little bit upwards, they can kind of prepare for it, or we're going to go a little bit downwards. It gives them time to adjust themselves, and it's pretty miraculous how well they do. So I approached this as I was training them, probably when I got this first Swincar, probably 3, 4, maybe, yeah, I'd say about 3 or 4 years ago. I went really slow teaching them. They adapted right to it, and it was incredible to see how they run with it. And when we're going over rough terrain, again, it's not something we go fast. This is more like almost, I call it like a hiking adventure. I'm riding it, driving it, and they're kind of hiking along. We're going at about a hiking pace usually. But we go up mountain roads because this Swincar has so much torque, because again, it's electric powered, and it's not gas powered. So the torque, the takeoff is better than a gas powered motor. So we can climb really steep inclines, or what they call grades. And that gives the dogs an incredible workout. So if we can get to a long mountain road, and I'm talking climbing for a mile or maybe more, and you're going up an incline, which is like really steep, 18%, 20%, whatever. I mean, really super steep inclines. That will work the dogs in other ways that I can't provide for them. I can't provide a workout. I can't replicate it. So that becomes an interesting part of our fitness program. So it's really, really nice to be able to do something like that. And again, on the descent, when you're coming down, this Swincar is equipped with really good braking. And I believe is it disc brakes, Chris?
Yeah, it's higher than a bicycle. I'd say it's more like a moped or a small motorcycle in the quality of the
brake. Yeah, more like a moped or a small motorcycle. I mean, they really can stop us, or I'm always riding the brake going downhill because it's a heavy piece of equipment. Again, they're never going to be able to pull this because 4 dogs and in the position they're in, and with my weight in the water or a second passenger, so it's more like what they would call resistance or a roading exercise. but the brake, so you're riding the brake a lot going downhill, but they're pacing and controlling themselves also. So that, again, that's another kind of fitness, another exercise for them. So really cool. There's I'm going to come around, and there's an electronic dashboard which kind of gives you the basics. So Chris got the sprayer going here, so I might get hosed down a little bit. It's got everything you need. It does have reverse, and the dogs, on some of the other rides, some of my other bikes, the dogs have U-bars or they're out in front, and the way they're tethered in, it would be hard to back up. They can go a little ways without backing up, very short distance. So when you find yourself, when you're out on these in the remote areas, and you actually have to turn around, it becomes quite a job with the dogs if they're tethered on both sides, if they're more in like a drafting mode. So when they're only hooked up to one point on their harness, the center of it, it's much easier when I tell them to back up. I've trained them and they can turn around, and this equipment, the Swincar, has a reverse mode. So it's kind of really nice when you're going backwards. Again, this thing is built for anything, including we go through snow. We've gone through, and I'll refer you to some of the videos again. Immense water, almost. I'm gonna say the water got. They don't really want you to submerge By the way, each wheel has its own motor. So this is a true four-wheel drive electric vehicle, and they don't want you to submerge this, at least not too long. I've had it totally submerged. I've been above the wheels, and the dogs were essentially swimming. So that was quite an episode also, and that wasn't by planning. That happened. Sometimes you get in these, even though you're not in pouring down rain, you're not in a situation that looks like you're going to come to a puddle that's going to be bottomless. Well, we've essentially come to those, and incredible how the dogs navigated it. You have to can't panic. You gotta be cool about it. And again, it's not gonna be anything that's gonna be over the top. It's not gonna damage us too severely. It might hurt the equipment, but of course the dogs and the passengers are gonna be safe when we get to a situation like that. But we've encountered them. Again, the machine navigated wonderful through it. The dogs loved it because it was warm out when we encountered those situations, and they're able to get their underside wet, which really helps in cooling them. So this is great in the winter, handling snow, going up mountain roads. Good in the summer, especially with the addition of the misting system, with the fans and misting system going, where you can direct how the spray goes. And this hookup that we've come up with, again, we developed this, nothing to do with Swincar. And I entertain them when they see it, I think, but totally our making, and it's really pushed us into a realm of being able to tackle big mountain runs. And when you're on a dog sled, again, some going up mountains, if it's not a gradual switch, I think they call them switch links or whatever they are, switchbacks. If you're not gradually climbing, if you're trying to transverse a pretty straight grade, a pretty straight shot, you're not going to be able to do that with a sled dog team. So this is very unheard of, for lack of a better description. And it's just incredible. All lights, this thing is road worthy. If you wanted to, you can have it in some states, I believe, as a low power vehicle. So you could take this on the roads, and you wouldn't be able to go the speed limit. I think top speed on it is something like 22 miles per hour. When I'm running the dogs on it, we never get that fast. Even going down a hill, we're usually at top end speeds, 14, 15 miles per hour, especially on this vehicle. So when it turns, the dogs are far enough away so you can keep them clear. And of course, they're trained, especially my front two dogs. They understand G and haul. G's to the right, haul's to the left. And the other sled dog commands G over, haul over, G come around. So if I'm just pushing them over, or I want them to go over, G over. If I want them to do a full come around, a full U-turn, it would be G come around or haul come around, etc. And those are just old sled dog terms that they use. I believe they're Latin derivative, and they used it originally to train horses, I believe. That's where they come from. Don't quote me on that. That's my understanding. So that's a Swincar. This is a model, I think 2019, 20, 2019 or 2020. So there's a couple improvements they've made. I'm not sure of all of them, but they're all pretty similar. The battery is mounted underneath here. It's a pretty extensive battery. We've never had to replace it. It's not really user replaceable. We can do it, but it's nothing like when you run out of battery in the field, you're done. This runs, by the way, for about 4 hours, no matter how hard you're running. It seems 4 hours is the magic number, which is a lot. So if you're climbing extensive hills, you're still in the range of 4 hours. I can't tell you, they don't rate it by miles or kilometers, because again, they're French. But I'm going to tell you, we get roughly 12 to 15 miles in about 4 hours, depending on what we're doing, how we're handling. And that's usually with 2 passengers or with the heavy water and with the fans running. So that's a Swincar. You probably may or may not have ever heard of this thing. Again, it's really technologically advanced and an expensive piece of equipment, but for what I do, it's really miraculous. WooFDriver, hope you enjoyed this. Got any questions or comments? There's lots of stuff about the Swincar that I'm not covering here, just because it would take hours to explain it all. But I love it if you want to put in the comment section any questions, particular concerns. Most people are probably not going to use this for dogs, but if you have a farm or you have an area where you have a similar, where you use an ATV, this can in some ways replace that ATV, and a lot better, in my opinion, because I've run the dogs on the ATV also, but a lot better to do that because it's not, it's heavy, but it's, when you get into Ranger ATVs like I use, electric and everything, it's not going to be near as heavy as something like that, with which is battery powered, the EV Ranger. Again, this is battery powered, but not quite the setup. So you don't have all that extra weight, and you don't have to be concerned so much knocking into a dog, etc. Never want to make it known. Been running this for a long time. Never had an injury. The dogs are well trained. I know people look at some equipment like I use and say, "Wow, that's easy for the dogs to get messed up on or hurt or whatever." It really doesn't happen. I'm moving at slow speeds. The dogs are trained. I know what to look for. Usually have another set of eyes with me or close by. And, you know, you could walk outside and get hit by a car, God forbid. So I would never put the dogs in a unsafe situation like that. This is about as safe as we get when I run the dogs. I mean, they can hurt themselves on a leash. So this is super safe as long as you understand your dogs and understand the equipment you're on and understand the way you're running them. So WooFDriver here, hope you enjoyed it. Again, you're only going to see this stuff here, especially for dogs. There's some Swincar stuff on the internet which you can learn a lot about the actual machine itself. But when you talk doing it for dogs and customizing it with these fans and equipment, I'm the only one in the world doing it. So hope you enjoyed this video. Please stay tuned for the next one, and if you want to go back in my archive, we're starting to get a little series going here of all the stuff I've done over the past 30 years, which if you're you just want to start off real slow with a bicycle, I'll take it down to the basics there, or get as extensive as a Swincar. We can get as sophisticated as that. Have a great day. Thanks so much for watching. WooFDriver signing off.